mean, this is a great start if you're watching this video. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This week, I want to share with you guys my tips for writing a successful statement of purpose. So I just turned in my graduate school applications, and now that it's all done, I'm really thinking about what I did that really helped me to feel confident in the statement of purpose that I turned in and feel like it was a strong statement. So I'm going to share all that with you. So the first thing that really makes such a big difference is making sure to outline ahead of time. Your statement of purpose is going to basically be separated into 3 parts: your background, your experience, and your commitment to the school that you're applying to. Basically, your statement of purpose can be broken down into 3 sections: why me, why this course of study, and why this school. If you can go ahead and plan all of that ahead of time and figure out what you want in each section, when it comes to actually writing the statement of purpose, it'll go a lot smoother and you'll already have an idea of where everything is leading. First, start by figuring out which experiences you want to include. I'd go for about 3 things that you want to kind of delve into a little bit deeper, and this will take up about 50% of your paper. So for me, I wrote about an independent study that I had done. I wrote about an internship that I had done, and I talked about starting my YouTube and TikTok accounts and how that had really prepared me for this course of study. Next, I would try and figure out what you want to include in the background section of your paper. You only have about 25% of your paper to do this, and so you want to be able to be concise, but also really figure out what the strongest things to mention are that are going to express yourself the best. I think one of the ways that you can most effectively present this information is through a story. It will immediately pull whoever's reading your statement of purpose in and really show them exactly who you are rather than just stating it. I also think it's a good idea to think of a theme at this point, something that you can start in your background and bring all the way as a thread throughout the paper, and that will really pull the entire thing together and make it seem really focused and on point. For me, I focused on storytelling as a theme. I'm applying to a screenwriting program, so that's really going to fit in with what I'm applying to, but it also is a way that I could tie everything that I was talking about together and really make it feel focused and set. The next thing you're going to want to do is just get out a first draft, and it's going to suck and be terrible and you're going to hate it, especially by the end. But you need to just get it out and get it written. Once you do that, you can start to see what's not working, what doesn't feel strong enough, where you think you can find improvements. But without doing that, you're just going to constantly be looking at and touching up your outline. And that outline is not going to get you anywhere. The next thing is really focusing on show, don't tell. It is a very, very common rule within English and writing courses. You will hear it again and again and again. But show, don't tell really is just talking about make your audience feel what you're saying and don't just say this happened. And I definitely was telling so much in the early drafts of my statement of purpose. I couldn't quite figure out how to show my experiences and everything that I wanted to talk about, especially in such a small space. And that's why the drafts helped so much, is because I was able to keep going back and figuring it out. Your statement of purpose is your chance to really show the admissions committee who you are and why they need you in their program. You want the committee to understand who you are and why you fit at their school. If you just list out all of your information, they'll understand your experiences and what you're talking about, but what you say might not stick in their mind. And that's one of the number one things you want your statement of purpose to do. A great way to really show instead of tell is by using stories. You only have so much space, so these stories can't be extensive, but you can find ways to just get the most important details into a story format, and it will make such a big difference. So, for example, I'll share with you guys how I started my statement of purpose, and we're going to look at the original where I was really just telling a bunch of information versus the final draft where I really feel like I was showing what I was trying to express rather than, again, just telling it. So here's the old draft. I've heard that the only jobs where you need to be more prepared for things to go wrong than the entertainment industry is politics. I may thrive in chaotic environments, but I hate lying, so that leaves me with the entertainment industry. Besides, story has been part of my life for even longer than I can remember. My mom tells me that when I was a year and a half old, my parents would catch me on the baby monitor, long after they'd put me to bed. Apparently, I would twist a light-up toy as far as I could, and for the 10 seconds of light I received in return, I'd read one of my books. Now, none of these books had any words. I'm not that amazing, but it's not a habit I lost when I graduated to higher reading levels. Eventually, I started telling my own stories. I learned how to tell them from the books I read, and I learned to edit from glazed-over eyes. So that's the original. See how, I have this one paragraph that starts, my mom tells me when I was a year and a half old. I mean, talk about telling and not showing. I literally use the word tell there. And so it's just presenting the information, but it's not really interesting or pulling anybody in. So here was how I switched that for the final draft. The entire house was calm and quiet. My parents knew better than to risk any loud noises, too familiar with my demands to be involved in anything that happened after bedtime. If they checked, they wouldn't find their toddler sleeping in bed where they left me. No, once again, I was twisting a light-up toy as far as my chubby wrists would allow and, using the glow for those 10 seconds, read. And twist and read, and twist and read. Now, none of these books had any words. I'm not that amazing, but this isn't a habit I lost when I graduated to higher reading levels. Eventually, I started telling my own stories. I learned to tell them from the books I read, and I learned to edit from glazed over eyes. So the general idea is still the same. I'm still telling that same story, but it feels so much more like a story, and it's able to pull the reader into exactly what I'm describing, rather than just being like, here's something that happened to me. And that made me feel so much more confident in turning in this paper. I also took out the beginning of the original. I liked the lines, I liked the idea that I was trying to get at, but they felt clunky and unrelated to the rest of my paper. So even though I liked what I was trying to do, I had to admit that it wasn't working and they had to go. Next, be prepared to write so many drafts. You're gonna write drafts on drafts on drafts. Give yourself as much time as you possibly can to write those drafts. I mean, I say this as somebody who gave herself plenty of time and then still wrote like 3 drafts in the span of one day on the day it was due. But if I hadn't given myself as much time as I had, I don't even want to know what version of the statement of purpose I would have been turning in. So give yourself as much time as you can, write it, and give yourself a break, and just keep going back and forth and figuring out what's working, what's not. Read it out loud, read it to friends, go to anybody you think might be able to give you advice and help you work out any of the kinks that are in it, and just keep writing it over and over and over. I also find it much more impactful to rewrite each of my drafts rather than editing onto an existing document. I just feel like I get so much more done with each draft by doing it that way. And finally, do your research. I watched so many statement of purpose videos on YouTube that by the time I was turning in my application, I felt like those videos were burned on the back of my eyelids. But it was really, really helpful. And so I definitely recommend finding whatever you can to help. I mean, this is a great start if you're watching this video. By listening to what a wide range of people had to say, I was able to write and rewrite my essays so much faster because I had in mind what everybody had said, the tips that they had learned, and the things that they already knew not to do. A lot of these videos also use their statement of purpose or examples of statement of purpose, so I was able to listen to what a bunch of different people have had to say in their own statements and figure out what worked for me and what I would do differently in my own, what worked for my degree and my path of study and all of that. And I find that listening to a lot of different examples and reading a lot of different examples is a great way for me personally to learn. So doing my research made such a big difference for me. And I was able to see what other people were doing and the format that people took with their own papers. So that's all for today. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and tell me what you want to see in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week. Bye.